What's going on, everybody? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and I'm back with some more Outriders for you. Well, yesterday hit the game like a 2-ton jackhammer, and I have to admit that I was caught a little unprepared with the sweeping list of changes. Now, if we are to learn anything from the way the dev team and studio works, it would be that despite public outcries from the gamer base, no matter how loud those public outcries are, no matter how many times they are told to revert the changes, they will not. And we know this from the first patch the game received just 1 week after launch. And so, we now arrive to today. And luckily for you, I have been experimenting with the new changes, and I have a bunch of small recommendations and observations for you so that you can retool your builds and start to regain your confidence in hitting those high-level CT missions. But before we dive into today's video, I once again wanted to thank everyone that has been viewing my Outriders uploads and hitting that subscribe button. And just in case you haven't yet smashed that sub button for more intensive Outriders content, please do so. And don't forget to ring the bell to receive all future upload notifications from my channel. Let's get this one going. First up, and in case you didn't yet get a chance to view yesterday's video, I will leave you a link in the video description below. But essentially, I just gave a quick overview of the 3 pages worth of patch notes. And I would like to say sorry, as during that video I failed to mention the major change to the emergency stance mod, as it was kind of hidden under the class changes for the Devastator. And what a great segue to our first and probably the largest change to the live game, and that was the inevitable fix for the ultra broken emergency stance mod. Now, it wasn't the initial procking of this mod that was broken, but the fact that even once the rock golem effects disappeared from around your character, the mitigation effects still stayed active, of course making this a favorite of everyone in the game, including myself. Now, within that mitigation effect that was staying active was actually 2 different mitigations, one being physical damage reductions and the other being anomaly power status effects, and both of these reductions spiked and stayed at a flat 65%. This meant that once procced, you could run all over the place like a savage running your glass cannon build and really be impervious to most incoming damage effects. So the biggest question on your mind is, how are we going to get back to that level of incoming damage reduction? And in that case, it's going to take anywhere from 2 to maybe even 3 mods that you will need to add to your builds in order to equal just what that broken emergency stance mod could bring. So here are some possible substitutions you could try along with some of my personal recommendations. First up, Damage Absorber looks like it could be a solid choice with that flat armor bonus, and if you don't have some of the other mods I'm going to mention, then yes, you need to swap to this mod to replace Emergency Stance. However, where Damage Absorber lacks is that it does not stack like some of the other mods, and it brings very little resistance percentage to your builds. Now, another tier 2 mod that could work is Diffuse, because it awards you bonus armor and a huge 50% resistance percentage whenever your character is sprinting. Once again, where Diffuse really falls behind is when you stop sprinting and the bonuses wear off. Now, if those bonuses stayed active for something like 10 seconds before wearing off, then Diffuse would be a really solid choice. But when I experimented with this mod, I found it decent if I was in a full retreat, but it did nothing for me when I decided to stand my ground and attempted to shoot it out with the NPC mobs. And that leaves us with the 2 mods that I am going to recommend you take a good long look at, with those being Mitigation from Death, which is a tier 2 mod, and then you also need to consider Circle of Death, if you have it, which is a tier 3 mod. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's video that I had my suspicions of just how accurate Mitigation from Death was at determining if you were aiming down the sights while achieving the kill. But after using it on several CT-15 missions this afternoon in place of Emergency Stance, it seems to be functioning properly. Here's me using my Toxic Techno with just Mitigation from Death on a CT-15, and once fully stacked, my physical damage reduction was over 78%, and my armor had jumped from the low 50,000s up to a whopping 188,000. Running solo, this was more than enough sustain for my Techno to plow through the content. Now, where we are going to lack across the board is going to be in the area of resistance, and this is really going to come into play when we start to encounter huge AoE effects, like those big anomaly zones, or even when the insurgents die and they lay down those huge circles of fire. Now, Emergency Stance was capable of giving us that constant 65%, and now if you look at your character stat screen, we have 0. Circle of Power, that tier 3 mod I recommended earlier, will give you a 15% resistance every time you use a skill, and it can stack up to 3 times, giving you a potential 45% resistance if you were to activate all 3 of your skills simultaneously. So if you're running a build that makes extensive use of skills and cooldown reductions, this could be a solid pairing with another physical damage reduction mod. Now, where Circle of Power really lacks is for those of us that are running pure DPS builds with those high skill cooldown timers. Overall, Outriders really lacks on individual resistance mods that can bring anything substantial to your builds, as it would take you stacking 3, 4, or even 5 mods that feature some form of resistance to really amount to much of anything on your build. Certain class skill trees do feature resistance nodes, but they normally require you to respec into the skill or tank tree in order to reach them, and making them unobtainable for a pure DPS build. Not that a glass cannon should have every resistance available to them in the game, because they are spec'd into damage, but they should have access to at least a few of them. Now, where the team at People Can Fly could really step in and help out is by including resistance as part of our armor stats, because if you look at your character stat screen under the heading of armor, there are separate fields for physical damage reduction and resistance, and it almost looks like this was their initial plans, but then it was split apart into separate headings or something like that. Other items that I would like to make mention of were all in some way affected by yesterday's patch, and I'm going to start off with Killing Spree, which is the best tier 3 weapon mod in the game. Now initially, this insane 25% weapon damage stacking skill had its 20-second timer reduced to just 10 seconds. But then it was reverted back and accompanied by a statement from the team that the changes had been unintentional. But the real reason I wanted to mention this particular mod is that ever since those changes were made and then reversed, I have seen erratic procs when it comes to my techno blighted rounds, toxic lead, and if my magazine is actually being refilled. Now, I submitted a bug report to the team yesterday, but to me, it almost looks like the damage effects from Killing Spree are somehow overpowering the toxic afflictions, and the game is not correctly registering that the target killed had indeed been hit with toxic. Additionally, I would like to make mention that since the patch, my game on PC, which has run near flawlessly since launch day, has been running like utter garbage. I've been seeing tons of micro stutters, especially just after loading into a new location, as well as full-on frame rate drops and freezes that have really hurt my playing experience. CT15s require the game to be functioning correctly, and hopefully the team can get this one worked out, especially after they made mention of numerous optimization fixes that were installed in yesterday's patch. Also, multiplayer is still plagued by mods not functioning within this game mode, and once again, I'm going to mention that targets being killed while afflicted with status effects is erratically proccing mods designed to refill magazines for killing targets afflicted with status effects. Overall, once I made that change from emergency stance over to mitigation from death, my CT15 gold clears have again returned. Now, where the attention for the development team now needs to be focused is on getting all mods to function properly in both solo and squad play, because if we are again being pushed towards a different meta, we at least need to have confidence in our builds as fully functional. If you should have any questions for me concerning anything in this video or the patch notes in general, please leave them in the comment section below. I wanted to again mention my community Discord server for anyone that is needing help with CT gold clears, general build questions, and everything in between. Check in the video description for the Discord link, accept the rules, and you are in. And don't forget to take advantage of all of those free chat rooms where you can squad up and stay on mic as you tackle your favorite Outriders content with your friends. In case you haven't yet smashed that sub button, you know what to do, and don't forget to ring the bell to receive all future upload notifications. If you could take the time to rate and or share the video, it would be greatly appreciated. You can find me over on Twitch with weekly streams, in my community Discord discussing all things Outriders related, and of course, follow me on Twitter for all my latest thoughts on most things gaming related. Until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer, signing off.